Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining in. It's great to be back here at Network Field Day. Today, I'm going to talk about the end-to-end API automation with Itential Automation Studio. My name is Alex Degitz. I'm a product manager here at Itential. And in this session, we're going to focus on end-to-end API automation, the building blocks that are needed for this automation. And I'm going to show a demo around how those building blocks are used in our IAP platform. But Tom, as you mentioned at the beginning, to bring up the automation heat, if you've seen any demo of us in the past, we've always done live demos with live devices on live environments. We saw Rich just pulling a device from DevNet to do on there, and we thought, well, let's raise the stakes a little bit and let you guys choose what I'm going to demo in a couple of minutes. So we have a lot of cool pre-built automations in our pre-built collection. We chose a couple of those for you to select today. So please go to Twitter at the @Itential or the hashtag NFD24. You will find a poll that looks a little bit like that on my slide here. And yeah, you're going to be able to choose which demo I'm going to do in a couple of minutes. You can choose between VIP creation. That's actually us going through automation gateway and running a script there that creates a virtual server on an N5 device. We could do number two, the AWS VPC creation. So that would be us hooking through the AWS adapter and going through there, creating some VPCs. Or we could do DNS updates, creation of DNS entries in an info block system. And of course, this is only a small selection. I mean, we could have chosen any of the 100, 150 or more pre-built collections that we have available. But yeah, this is what we're going to do today. So delegates and everyone at home watching, please go to Twitter now and make your selection. And to give you some time, I'm actually going to go forward to talk a little bit more about the building blocks and the end-to-end automation process that we think are relevant. Because as Rich just mentioned, we have a great CLI integration. We take your Terraform plans, we take your scripts, your bash code, whatever. We can do the same for your current efforts around security and compliance. Again, right tool for the right job. Don't rebuild everything, just use what works for you. But as we see here in the middle, this execution part that we've been focused on so far is actually only a very small part when you think about the end-to-end automation process that you actually have to go through, right? I mean, if you start on the left-hand side, there's prep work. I mean, you need a ticket to actually realize what change needs to happen, like which firewall port you need to open, which interface you need to spin up. Then there's scheduling of maintenance windows, approval processes. Then you need to go to your different sources of truth to actually get all the information that you need to make that change. Even when you've already started in the pre-execution phase, there's going to be pre-checks. You might want to take a snapshot, a backup, might be some other monitoring that you need to do. And then after the actual execution, again, a lot of steps there. Post-checks, definitely test your results. That's very important. But then go and update your systems. Go update your ticketing system. Go notify the users that this firewall port has now been opened, is now available for them. So when we focus on API end-to-end automation, we really need to focus on all of these aspects and not just focus on, oh, this is how I deploy some config to a device, because that's only a very small part of what we're trying to do. And so when it comes to building blocks of making that picture a reality, a couple of obvious things that we need here. I mean, we need an integration. We need to integrate with as many systems as possible, because each system more that we integrate with gives you more flexibility and more power in your platform. How we handle that at Itential is we've just written a compiler for any kind of open API, Swagger spec that you have maybe available. We can ingest them directly. So if anyone has already gone and modeled their APIs, we can just take their model and ingest it natively. If you have a Postman collection, you can just build an adapter on our adapter build a website and get running. If you already have some code that makes API calls, even through a script, for example, we can leverage that to bring your integrations into our automation system. So there's a lot of different ways for you so that we don't have to have a list of vendors that we integrate with, or with third-party systems that we integrate with. We integrate with them when they have an API. Once they're integrated, we need to transform the data. And as you can imagine, right, if I have the output of API A and I have the input of API B, especially if they are in different systems, like if they're different third-party systems, they most likely won't match up. So we need a robust way to transform the data from one system to the next system. And this is why we've built a specific tool for this called JSON Schema Transformations, or JSTs. And what you can do with that is, in a low-code environment, build reusable, drag and drop your connections together, as is outlined here in this picture. And yeah, you'll see me in the demo. I'm actually going to work. I'm actually going to build a JST from scratch in a couple of minutes. And then, of course, once you have integrated and transformed your data, of course, then you need to stitch all of those together. And here, we really need to differentiate, because low code doesn't equal low code. Because at the end, it is nice that you can automate something, but it is only really valuable if you can keep that initial effort, if you can keep that value up over time. If you once write an automation and a year later, no one understands it, no one knows about it, no one knows how to fix something if something's broken, or no one how to add something, you're not going to be successful in your automation strategy, even though you have the most beautiful low-code canvas. So how we solve this is we in our latest release, we've built a completely new automation canvas, which focuses on building modular, reusable, easy to understand workflows. And what we've kind of done there, which I think is really cool, we have built in a best practice analyzer, which basically just looks over your shoulder while you're building your automation. And if you do something that we think might not be the best practice, might be a little harder for you later, we're actually going to flag that and just say a little info and say like, hey, this might not be a best idea, maybe go this direction. That's how we ensure your automations will stand the test of time. So let's go back to our demo, and that's actually the most exciting part for me in this whole presentation, because now I'm going to find out what I'm actually going to present today. So as we said, we had the options to go through IAG and use the F5 device, or do some DNS updates through our intro blocks adapter, or create some VPCs. And I'm about to find out what you guys have chosen. So let me switch over to my Chrome and reload this. And I hope that works. And it is the AWS VPC creation, which is awesome. So thanks everyone for doing that. 50% of the votes, and then DNS update and VIP creation were close second and third. OK, with that being settled, we're going to start the demo, and let's create some VPCs. So I'm going to start in the Itential automation platform. This is our homepage. And my first step is going to be to go to our Admin Essentials application, where you can configure, add new modules, add new plugins, whatever you want to do, kind of admin kind of things. And here we have this pre-built section, which allows us to, which is always synced with our Itential open source repository. You actually see there's an update available already for one of the pre-builds that I have installed. And with this browse button, you see our live view of which pre-builds we have published. That could be as small as a couple of different transformations, maybe CSV to JSON, maybe Slack to SD-WAN, or whatever. It could be entire end-to-end use cases, like the AWS VPC creation that we're going to use, or a Cisco IRS upgrade that comes fully packed with pre-checks, post-checks, diffs, different steps for you to intervene, and so on. Or it could be best practices, like here, command template best practices. We have a device health, connection health check that we're going to use in a lot of our automations going forward. So there's a lot available for you. And every week, we're going to add at least 2 or 3, or we have been adding at least 2 or 3 of those that are automatically available for you in our platform. So today, I'm actually going to choose the AWS VPC creation. And without configuring anything directly after the install, I'm just going to go to our automation catalog. That's our overview, our self-service portal, really, where users come in and request services like a VPC, for example, or like an update to a service, or a new SD-WAN that they might want to create. This comes fully stacked with group-based access control for people who can execute that, which people can see it, which people can change this this automation catalog item. For now, I'm just going to start it. So we have something predefined, and we're going to deploy a VPC in our US West 1 in our live AWS VPC environment. Just to make sure I'm not like making things up here, I'm actually going to update this real quick to So we currently have 4 VPCs available here. And our plan is to add another one with the IPv4 CIDR address block of 13, I think it's for 13,000 exactly. That's our range here. So I'm going to start this and view what's going to happen in our job manager. And I know a couple of questions came up in the previous session. So this is exactly where we do all the pre-checks, all the guardrails before actually executing something through Automation Gateway, as Rich has shown in his previous demo. So while the UI is available there for people to directly share scripts and execute them, the most consumption of scripts and other things that IAG, our Automation Gateway, makes available is actually used by our IAP solution. So the VPC has been created, pre-checks, post-checks have been passed. I enabled a diff mode when I ran this just now, just to see that I can actually get the VPC config back. And I see I have a new VPC created. This all looks good, so I'm going to proceed here. And when I go to my VPC environment, I see, awesome, a new one has been created here with my 13 address block. I didn't bother giving it a name. I can maybe do that next time. But what I've shown now is out of the box, I've downloaded, install a pre-built on a basically empty IAP box, hit run, and we were able to create this VPC in our environment. So, I mean, while this is awesome, I mean, let's actually build some stuff and integrate with a couple of systems. And one obvious one that we're asked for a lot, that probably you have seen a lot of integrations to, is actually Slack. So to start building something like that, I'm going to go ahead and move to our Automation Studio. And this is really our one-stop shop for everything automation building related. Is it completely new automations? Is it forms to get data from users? Is it like your pre-checks, post-checks? We have Jinja 2, text FSM support, our JSON schema transformations, of course. So everything you need automation related is available there. And as I said, this is a live demo, and we're just going to start from scratch. So I'm going to create an automation with our new canvas. And since we want to add a notification, I'm going to call this VPC create with notification. Let's see what happens. And those are the two things we really want to do. We want to create a VPC through this automation that I'm building here, and then we want to send a notification to Slack. So first step, obviously, is to build the VPC creation. Since we already have that available in our pre-build, all I really need to do is call that pre-build with something that we call a child job, and just select the workflow that came with my pre-build, which is here the create custom VPC. And as an input for that workflow, for this child job, I'm just going to take the entire form data that have been passed in from the user. So if I save this now, I could run my new automation and it will yield the exact same result as the pre-built automation did, because it just calls that one. So of course that would be pretty boring. So now we're going to add some stuff, and we're going to add, and let's just, in our infinite task list here of things we have available, let's just look for what Slack kind of offerings do we have. And then we see like our GitLab adapter comes with some services Slack integration. That's not really what we want. So our IAP actually doesn't know anything about Slack. Like, we don't have any integration. We don't have APIs built out. What do we do now? And that's where one of the awesome features in our latest release comes in. All I really need is the Open API specification for to communicate with Slack, and then I'll be able to execute this call. So just gonna go. Let's Google this. Like, we have Slack here, and then, I mean, of course, I went through this demo a couple of times, so I already have the link saved here. And so this is basically the model that Slack offers in their GitHub repository to say, hey, by the way, this is how you communicate with Slack APIs. So I'm gonna give me the raw view here that I can just save it to my downloads folder, and I have it now. Now I have the model for how to communicate with Slack. Going back to Admin Essentials, I'm going to import that model. So we have an integration model here. Browse my files. Here's something Slack. I'm going to validate it real quick to make sure all API calls that are modeled there are actually understood. Awesome, works fine, no errors. So let's import this thing. So now we have a model available to integrate with any kind of Slack system. The only thing we're missing so far is we need to create an actual instance because we want to integrate with our Itential Slack. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to create the Itential Slack here and create this instance. And Slack already comes with a couple of pre-filled fields, which is awesome. We definitely want to communicate secure over HTTPS. So we're going to use port 443. And then, bear with me for 1 second, I'm just going to need to get our access token here for Slack. It's already preloaded here. Perfect. OK, so let me save that. And now we actually have an integration into our Itential Slack. And I mean, we're going to invalidate this token later, so don't try it. But if you would try that now, it would actually work. So we're going to go back to Automation Studio. We're going to reload our page here and see what happens. So let's try this again. We're going to add a node here. And look if we're in better luck here now. And we see now we have Slack Web API, and we actually have some things going on here. Perfect. So I actually want to post a message. So let me see if that's available. Perfect. We have this chat post message here for us. And the only thing I really need to do now is for the text, I'm just going to pass in whatever that pre-build to create a VPC gives me, like just to see what's going to happen here. And for the channel, we have a specific notifications channel available. Should I spell that right? That looks good. Perfect. Last step. I'm going to go back to Automation Catalog. And so I could create a whole new Automation Catalog item, expose this separately, say like, oh, if you want AWS VPC creation with notification, build a new one. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to reload this to get my new automations. And I'm just going to call this one. What do they call it? VPC create with notification or something. Here it is at the bottom. I'm going to save this, run it. And this time, I'm going to select zero touch. Because I don't want to see the diff again. That's something we allow our users to do once they get familiar and utilize used to their automation. Basically, if it ran through the first 50 times well, maybe the 51st time I don't need to do a manual check anymore. I can just run through it zero touch. So I mean, first of all, we kicked off that job. So we will have created another VPC already. But this time, we have this key value pair, the pairs that we can add tags here. And what we can say is, for example, the name, let's say, Itential VPC. And let's start off this job. I don't think I've tried that, so that's actually a really live demo now. So we're going to see what happens. But anyway, the real thing that I wanted to show is, yes, we've created it. OK, so let's go to our VPCs. We should now see 2 more because I kicked that job off twice. Let's see. Yeah, we have 2 more. We have 7 in total now. And we have 1 new one that I created without a name. And we have 1 that also doesn't have a name. So you got me there. Maybe it's a capital N for the name for the key. We'll get that figured out, and I'll get you the answer there. It's definitely possible. As you see, we have the other ones here. We can create a name here, but good catch. Interesting part now, we should have some Slack notifications, and it actually is the case. So again, we kicked off 2, so we have 2 notifications here. And so we see we've integrated with Slack. It works. Even though IAP did not know anything about Slack previously. The problem is, though, that's not very usable, right? I mean, yes, it's all there. We can see we have the VPCs created and stuff. But I mean, here, even with the value Itential, name Itential, VPC, but I mean, it's not very usable, right? We want to have a nice way to demonstrate those and to show this message. And that's where JSON transformation comes in. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to open myself a new tab here. And I'm going to create a new transformation. And with that transformation, I want to make sure that VPCs can talk directly to Slack. So that's just what I'm going to call this, VPC to Slack. And there's a couple of things about JSON schema transformation. So that's basically a model-to-model transformation. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to take the output of my pre-build, which I handily have available here in my job manager. Whatever object is put out, I'm going to use that to infer the schema of my input. So I'm going to post here an example output of my VPC create call. I'm going to say, please give me the JSON schema of this object here. Awesome. I'm going to call that VPC. And now all of these things that come back through my API call, I now have them available to use in my JSON schema transformation. The outgoing schema is really simple. We just want to send a message to Slack. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Message, it's going to be a text. So we put in string here, and that's our output. So the only thing we have left to do is to connect all of those. And we have a handy function available here, which is called template literal. And that allows me to do some variable substitution. And one more thing that I've prepared here on my notes side, which is basically just like a little variableized text, because I want to say something in my Slack like, hey, this is a message from us. VPC created for account in region, link to our job, initiated by. That's basically what I want to see. And when I update this, again, I get all the variables that I've defined. I get them for me available here. And now it's just a matter of finding the right things here. So customer name is account. We have region to region. We're going to want the range. The job ID comes from our IAP system here. And the initiator is also for our IAP system. So we're going to string those together. And what I can actually do right now is I can do a trial run here. I already have my input data from the object that I inferred the schema of. Hit run here and see, oh, now we get already a much nicer message for Slack. By the way, just putting it out there, I mean, we're doing VPC to Slack right now. At the same time, you could do Slack to VPC to actually use Slack to start a VPC creation in our notifications channel. Would be the same work. You can also just drag and drop that together without needing any custom code. So go back to my automation studio, to my automation here, and I'm going to insert a node between the run of my pre-build and the Slack task. And I'm just going to add this transformation here. Typed it right, yeah, transformation, and I'm going to select the one. What did I call it? Not Slack 2, I called it VPC to Slack. Let's see if I find that. Here it is. Save this, and again from automation catalog, we're going to run this thing. I'm giving up on the name right now. I'm coming close to my time as well, so just have to bear with me here. This runs in the background. We see it in Job Manager. We've seen it a couple of times now. So the really cool thing that should happen here is we should, oh no, I forgot one thing. Let me go back one more time. I had to redo the inputs, of course. So we had the JSON schema transformation here. We have selected it. Let me go back here, VPC to Slack. That's correct. Let me save this. And is that correct? Yeah. And now in the variable section, we actually need to select which data needs to come in. So I don't know why this is not working right now, but that's the beauty of a live demo. Let me just delete that task and try again. So we're going to add a node here. It is the transformation. Transformation, here we go. VPC to Slack. I should find it somewhere here. And I need to add that to my end task here. Okay, let me run this. And then for the chat message, I will need to also select the variable, because now I want to, instead of using the text that I originally shown, I want to use the whatever message is received for my JSON transformation. And then from there, I can basically go, and I'm sorry that this is not working right now. This is very spectacular, but from here, I can go and do whatever, right? So basically what we've shown is we have used our pre-builds out of the box. We have used them, we have reused them in another system that we're doing here. We have integrated with a completely new system that could be any system that have an open API spec, that has a Postman collection that for you available, which is luckily a lot of systems, or most systems out there now. We do have available the transformation that we've just seen, which is basically allows us to get input from one system and move it over to another system. So that works in this case from VPC to Slack, but you could also do SD-WAN to your router or your netbook system, something like that. And you could start adding more nodes here. You could, if you want to get a backup for your demo, if you want to get a backup before, you can do that. Just use backup device. Really, the limit of what you can do with this canvas is your imagination.
Because I look at things not just from a network perspective, right? How many customers are you guys? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of power here, right? There's a lot of functionality. And looking at this from just a purely network perspective, obviously, there's much more potential. How many customers are getting into this? Kind of back to the question of where people start. Do they start on the network side and then they see the power that can go across horizontally to the other domains and be able to attack those as well? What do you guys see from that adoption?
It really depends. It depends on the size of the customer. It depends on their skill set. We have customers coming in and say, we want to go full model driven because we're planning to use this thing for the next 10 years and we are ready to make that big step. And but most customers come in and say, like, we have a couple of automation efforts already, be it some playbooks, some scripts, some Terraform plans or whatever. How can we integrate with those? How can we make those work together? And that's really where our pre-built automations come in really handy, because we have a turnkey solution. You can download something, as I've shown earlier, and just run it, or you can select your script to run from there, for example. And then what we see is that once people are familiar and used to those pre-built automations, then they start slowly working in their own tasks, kind of like I did in the demo just now.